everybody, and welcome back to, for the first time in a long time, a DC Universe miniature game battle report. Although I think they're calling it Multiverse now these days, I don't know. Either way, felt like a bit of a change, so why not revisit the other Night Models miniature game they have ongoing. That is, the Batman miniatures are all compatible with this, more or less. It's the DC Universe. They also did the Marvel Universe in the past, and we did do some matchups between DC and Marvel. They use the exact same game system, but they aren't exactly balanced. So we're just going to do pure DC, doing probably my favourite scenario from the hardback rulebook, which is specific to Doomsday and Superman. They're fighting each other, they can only hurt each other for the first couple of turns, and then everybody piles in to try and take them out. So it's probably not going to be a super long game either, because both sides only have 3 models, but we'll quickly take a look at those two sides and then go over the specifics of the details. And if you aren't familiar with the DC Universe miniature game, we can quickly cover just how a turn plays out and how you spend power to do things, etc., just so that it's hopefully watchable. Give it a chance, it is fun. The reason we're doing this is because every so often you just want to chuck buildings at each other, and this game is probably the best miniature game, even compared to Monster Apocalypse. This is the best one for just picking up buildings and throwing them at each other. So the standard size game for the DC Universe is 50 power levels, and Doomsday is taking up 20 of those by himself, hence there only being 3 villainous people this time. So along with Doomsday we have Black Adam, and then also, for just a relatively low compared to everyone else, 12 power levels, we have Cheetah. So they are the villain side. They don't really have a joint as well. Actually, they're just general Justice League enemies. They can be allied together on that basis, but none other that I can think of. And the members of the Justice League that are going to be taking on the villains today are these 3. So we have Martian Manhunter, I might just call John for brevity's sake, depending. We have Shazam on the right here, and then in the centre we have probably my favourite Night Models Superman miniature they've made, which is, I think it was the 80th anniversary of Superman as well. It came out around about the same time as the 80th anniversary Batman miniature for this game and the Batman miniature game. Usually I don't like the big diorama bases, but this one I just think looks really awesome, and he probably is the best statted Superman as well. And in the DC Universe battle reports we used to do, there is already a Doomsday and Superman one, and it was these two against each other, and I remember it being very fun, so hopefully that will happen again. So here's the rules for the scenario we're playing. Scenario 7 from the hardback rulebook, as I knock over a lamppost. Superman versus Doomsday. It's the standard 6 round length on a 3x3 table, which of course we have here. During the first 2 rounds of the game, Superman and Doomsday can only be affected by attacks and special powers from each other, and can only direct attacks and superpowers against each other. So they can only attack each other, no one else can interfere until round 3. Victory conditions: 5 victory points if either Superman incapacitates Doomsday or vice versa, 1 victory point each time one of them makes a successful hit against the other, and 1 victory point in general for every miniature taken out. And that is the deployment zone, which we shall set up now. So both sides are set up, and unfortunately Superman and Doomsday are a bit obscured by this building, but it's not going to be here for long most likely, so it doesn't really matter. The game is primarily played with D8s, but the D6s are used to denote how much power every character has, and sometimes their power maximum goes down if they're wounded. So although it's quite high right now, it will probably go down. And you use power for everything in the game. You use it to move, you use it to attack, to throw, and attacks are broken into as many as you want in a turn, as long as you have the power to spend. Once per turns and then once per games. And you do want to save some power, because you also use that to boost your defenses against everything except this game's equivalent of Mystic or Psychic, but no one here is doing that, I think, so you don't need to worry about that this time. So Superman and Doomsday start in basically the middle of the map, facing each other down like that, and the way the game decides who goes first is you put in a number of tokens into a bag equal to the sides, so 3 each because it's a 6-turn game. Except Shazam has a role called Mastermind, so he replaces an enemy die with one of his own. So we're going to pull from the bag. It's been a while since we've done this. Red ones for the enemies, and blue ones for the Justice League. So it will be one of the 2 turns where the enemies go first. So battle round 1, Doomsday's going to be activating first, probably. So it did not take long for a building to already be removed. So Doomsday did activate first with his 10 power in total. Picking up and throwing something costs 3 power. You can do it once per turn. You can also do something called overloading on attacks that you do in general, and overload either does a special rule attached to the thing you're doing, or just gives you an extra d8 to try and beat their defense value, because normally for an attack, you roll 2 d8s, add your attack, beat their defense, it goes through, and the enemy can spend power to boost. But anyway, Doomsday picked up the building here, chucked it at Superman, and despite him being at point blank, he passed his agility roll, so he actually took nothing from that. So then he spent 1 power to move his 4 inches, his shortest distance, to get into base to base with the Man of Steel. He then just did his basic strike, which is called... oh, it's just called Big Strike. He overloaded it, so it had a high chance of going through. Superman spent 1 power to boost his physical defense, because it has Irresistible, so it ignores his natural resilience against physical damage. And it went through, and it went through with a crit. So normally it would do 3 damage, but it did 4. And he banked 2 power to buff his defense, if he needs to. So he only got 1 successful hit through, but that is already 1 victory point for the villains. So Superman activated and retaliated against Doomsday, and he went all out to start the fight. He did his once per game flying punch and overloaded it, so he was spending 7 power, 6 plus the 1 for overloading, and he smacked Doomsday right upside the head. I guess he like zoomed off and then went round the planet, came back and double punched him in the face like in the animated movie. So that did 5 damage to Doomsday, and then he had exactly enough power left to do a throw, overloaded, and if you're trying to pick up a character, you have to successfully land the equivalent of a melee hit against them, and then you can pick them up and throw them. And the way this game works is, if you throw a person and they collide with something, they take damage equal to the thrower's strength -1, and obviously Superman is very strong, he's strength 6. So that means Doomsday took another 5 damage after he was chucked into the car over here and the car exploded. So he took 10 damage in 1 turn, which is actually incredible, although Superman did burn one of his once per games. But that's still a ridiculous amount of damage. It puts Doomsday at approximately half health. It puts him into what's called the pale zone of his health bar, which is like you go from healthy to pale to blue. And if you're ever in the blue zone, you have to do a knockout check every single time you end a turn in that area. Doomsday does regenerate health, and the first time he's killed, he does come back, immune to whatever killed him. But that, for the purposes of the mission, he still gets incapacitated and comes back. So if he dies early enough, that will still score the victory points. But either way, that was 2 successful hits, so 2 victory points. And now the others get to activate, and they can't touch that fight at all. That fight's going too fast for them to interact with. But there is a reason for them to hit each other, because there's victory points for incapacitating other people. Black Adam activated next, and he spent 3 to fly up the board 13 inches in a straight line, which just put him in the 10 inches that let him then spend 2? Yes, 2 on a lightning bolt, which he fired at Martian Manhunter. He cannot spend to overload it, because for whatever reason you're just not allowed to overload it, it says on it. John spent 1 of his power to phase shift, which is a reactive superpower he can do. For the rest of the turn he gets +1 physical defense and +2 energy defense. It was not enough though. The roll got through. You can actually see the roll still sitting on the table. You add your Black Adam's attack to that, beats the defense, it goes through, it went through. So Martian Manhunter took 3 damage. Shazam activated and spent 3 power to fly so that he could easily get down to where there was a car over here, although there isn't anymore. As you can see, he then spent 3 power to pick up the car and chuck it at Black Adam. Black Adam failed his agility roll and took 3 damage from that. He then spent 3 power, leaving him with 1. 2 power, leaving him with 1 because you can't overload it, to do a Zeus Bolt as well. And Black Adam spent 1 of his 5 power he was left on to buff his energy defense, but it wasn't enough, so it got through for 3 damage as well. So Black Adam has taken 6 damage. Forgot to mention, during his turn, he banked so much power because the only attack he could do was the lightning bolt in terms of what was in range, and that was a once per turn. So he was sitting on a lot of power for defense, but as it turns out, it didn't help. So Cheetah was the last to activate for the villains, and sadly she was a bit too far away to do much. She spent 2 to move 9, which put her roughly in the middle. Then she spent another 2 for advanced pounce to move another 6. You just get bounced, which plopped her down right there. So she's sitting on 5 power, but she has no ranged attacks, so she can't really do anything else. Totally forgot to mention though, but Cheetah has possibly the worst written ability in the entire game in terms of like bad English. But other than that, she's fairly sturdy. But unfortunately her limit is obviously she's a close combat fighter, so she can't do anything. So it is over to Martian Manhunter to end off battle round 1. So Martian Manhunter spent 3 to fly, which actually gives him up to 15 inches. He flew down here between Cheetah and Black Adam and then did his once per game for 5 power, I think it was. Psionic Scream, which is a Nova, so it's just a burst around him as he screams and pierces the air, I guess. And anyone, friend or foe, within 4 inches has to do an agility roll. If they fail it, they take full damage, which was 3. If they pass it, which unfortunately Cheetah and Black Adam did, they take half damage rounding fractions down, so 1.5 becomes 1. So 1 and 1. He had 2 power left over, and since it's the end of the round, the only thing he could do was a telekinesis strike, I think it's called. It's one of his superpowers, not an attack, where you can pick up something, you're treated as strength 3, but you can chuck it. So he picked up the barricade that was here, threw it into the back of Cheetah's head. She passed her dodge roll, so she took no damage, and that is the end of the round. So the end of battle round 1, the only points to be scored were from Doomsday and Superman punching each other. So Doomsday hit Superman successfully once for 1 victory point, Superman hit him twice for 2. So as we go into battle round 2, it's a 2-1 up lead to the heroes. And in terms of damage being done, Doomsday has regeneration 1, so he has healed 1 damage of the 10 he managed to take. And now we're back to the bag to see who's getting first activation. Exceptionally likely to be the heroes, and it will be, indeed, the Justice League going first at battle round 2. So Superman got battle round 2 started as probably expected. He did his other once per game, so that's him tapped all his once per game abilities to do his freeze breath on Doomsday, which is again it's a spray, not a Nova, but it works the same way. You do an agility test. If you fail it, you take full damage. If you pass it, you take half damage rounding down. He failed his agility, so he took 3 damage and got ensnare 3, which means that his movement speed is dropped by 3, basically. Then Superman spent 2 to move next to the building that was here, and decided it was apt to be chucked. He picked it up for 3, he threw it at Doomsday. Doomsday passed his agility roll this time and took no damage, so he ended his turn by spending 2, leaving himself on 1 power to buff his defense, to fire heat vision at Doomsday, and that did get through. He overloaded it as well, and it got through for 3 damage, so Doomsday took 6 damage in total. That's 2 successful hits for 2 more victory points. So Doomsday's in no rush to activate because he can't be interacted with by anyone besides Superman until the end of this round. So he doesn't need to go immediately, so to capitalise on hopefully doing a lot of damage, Black Adam activated instead. And if we just come down here, as I hit the table a little bit, we can see he tried to do something. He did his once per game final lightning for 5 power, which is a 3 inch burst around him. It did not quite catch Cheetah, and John managed to pass his agility roll, so he avoided 5 damage down to 2, which is definitely better for him. So then Black Adam spent 1 to move into base to base with him, and then did a overloaded basic strike, which John did do his density shift again to get extra physical defense. And I want to show you the roll that Black Adam got for that attack that he overloaded. Here it is right here. 3 1s. Had he managed to break his defenses, that would have been a crit because of the numbers matching, but not when it's 3 1s. So now it's over to either Martian Manhunter or Shazam. So John did his best with the power he had, but wasn't able to do anything in his turn. He overloaded a normal strike, which he can do as many as he wants as long as he has the power to spend, but chose not to roll the extra die, rolled for the bonus that it has, which he can choose to overload it for plus 2 damage. Could not get through the 15 physical defense of Black Adam, and he has resistance physical 2, so if it did get through, damage would be reduced by 2. So that's why that happened. Couldn't get through, so then he tried overloading another punch, this time rolling the extra die just to try and get something through. It would have eventually equaled 1 damage, all said and done. That didn't get through either. He had 1 power left, he spent it to move 5 inches to where you can see him there. Not a good turn for him. So Cheetah activated next for the villains, and I totally forgot that all her attacks are the mystic type damage, so it does totally matter, because not a lot of people have defense against that damage type. And also when Martian Manhunter got hit by Final Lightning from Black Adam, it reduced his mystical defense by 1 as well. So Cheetah spent 1 to close the distance between her and Martian Manhunter. Then she did her once per turn Fang attack, which again is mystic. She overloaded it, it got through for 3 damage. Then she did 1 more claw attack, which she can do as many times as she wants. She overloaded it once, and it did 2. So Martian Manhunter has taken 5 damage. He's 1 away from his blue zone of his health bar, where he'll drop a bunch of stats and will have to do constant KO checks, or to see if he passes out and succumbs to his wounds. She banked 1 power, not that she'll probably do much with it other than boost her defense, and it is over to Shazam to end the turn for the good guys, and then to Doomsday to try and hurt Superman. Shazam activated and started with his once per game, which costs a massive 5 power. He overloaded it for 6, although actually I just realised there's no point in him overloading it because it's an agility test. So never mind, he should technically have 2 power left. He spent 5 for his, I think it's called the Power of Shazam, at Black Adam. It's a gigantic 5-inch explosion on target, so it does actually catch Cheetah as well. It's a massive burst. And you do agility tests on whoever's hit again, and if they pass agility they take half damage. They both failed their agility tests, so they both took 4 damage. He then spent 2 to fire a lightning bolt at Black Adam. That did not get through his defense, and then he was going to spend his last 1 to close the distance. I know now he has 2 because there was no point overloading the burst. He moves 5, his minimum distance, so he has 1 power left over technically, but there's nothing he can do with it, and Doomsday can't hit him, so there's nothing to do defensively. So it is over to Doomsday to see if he can hurt Superman. So Doomsday spent 4 of the 9 power he had left to negate the reduction to his movement range he has from the freeze breath to do a super jump, which lets him get put within 12. So he did, he jumped right into base to base with Superman. He then did a he did a once per turn bone breaker, which is an AoE, so it's just an agility test. This time Superman failed his agility test, so he took the full 4 damage. He would also be stunned, but that isn't going to matter because it's the end of the turn. So he took 4 damage, that's 1 victory point for the villains. Also forgot to mention, but Doomsday has a role called Corrosive Aura, I think. But the way it's worded it implies it won't work here, because he moved into Superman. The way it's worded is any model that ends their activation within whatever distance of him takes 1 damage. But Superman's already had his activation, so presumably it won't apply, and he's been keeping his distance. Well, it's not end of movement, it's end of activation, so you could move in and throw him and then still be not affected by the Corrosive Aura. Did also totally forget this Superman has something called Heroic Effort, the special rule Heroic Effort, so every turn his first attack does +1 damage, which was totally forgotten about. Apologies, it has been a while since we played this. Either way, that is the end of the round. So it is 4 playing 2 at the end of battle round 2, because Superman got 2 hits on Doomsday, and Doomsday got 1 on him, and Doomsday heals 1 because he has regeneration, and I think that's about it. There's no KO checks, although people are getting very close, so it's just down to shaking the bag and seeing who gets first activation in battle round 3. It is going to be the heroes, which again is the most likely outcome. So as we start battle round 3, there is a couple of quick things to cover. 1, Doomsday and Superman are now no longer just fighting themselves, it's a free-for-all. Everyone can now hit Doomsday, everyone can now hit Superman. Well, not everyone, you know what I mean. Black Adam and Cheetah can hit Superman, Martian Manhunter and Shazam can hit Doomsday to help out to the Man of Steel if they want. Also, you might notice that some of the starting power values for this turn are lower due to being wounded. Black Adam, Martian Manhunter, and I think that's it. Yeah, they've got -1 power, so their reserves are a little bit lower. So battle round 3 got started with Superman again going first, and he went all out to take out Doomsday. He picked Doomsday up and threw him at Cheetah first of all. He got the throw. Doomsday did buff his physical defense, but it wasn't enough on an overloaded throw attempt. Cheetah's very agile, so she managed to dodge out the way of Doomsday's corpse coming, or body at that point, coming crashing into the center of the map. But strength -1 damage, so that was 6 damage right there. Superman spent one, I think, to move into base to base with him. Then punched him, overloaded. It would have done 3 damage, but Doomsday has resistance 1 against physical, so it gets reduced to 2 damage, which left him on 1 health. So then he did a heat vision, and the heat vision got through for 2 damage. So Doomsday is gone. So that was 3 successful attacks plus the kill, so that was 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 8 victory points right there, which is pretty hard to come back from. But speaking of that, at the end of the next round, so the end of battle round 4, Doomsday comes back, and he's now immune to energy damage. So he's going to be basically unkillable, more or less, when he comes back, but he'll only have 2 turns to make a difference if it goes that distance. If they're both dead, we're just going to call it, I think, because if Doomsday isn't on the table. But we'll see how it goes, and Superman literally spent everything he had, so he is open to attack and can't buff any defenses. So Cheetah activated, and she did the exact same turn as last time. She went all out on John. She did an overloaded Fangs and then an overloaded Claws, both of which managed to crit. That's actually the roll for the second attack. 666. As if by magic, she has done 3 + 1 for 4, and then 2 + 1 for 3 damage to John, which is enough that he has succumbed to his wounds entirely and has died. And that is 1 victory point for the villains for taking out a character. Shazam activated, stayed where he was, and did 2 overloaded Herculean punches into the back of Black Adam's skull, which is just his basic strike. He can do as many times as he wants. The first one did 3 damage, reduced to 1 because Black Adam has resistance 2 against physical attacks, which I think has been forgotten at least once. Again, I'm coming back to a game after a long time. Mistakes are made. And then he did another one and it did 0 damage. He had 3 power left, so he spent 2 on a Zeus Bolt, which did get through his defense. He chose not to buff that by spending more power. He did spend 1 power to buff his physical defense though. So it did 3 damage, but he has resistance 1 to energy, so it came down to 2. So he took 3 damage, so he's still very much alive, but that put him in his blue zone of his health, which means he instantly has to do a KO check, and he failed it. You roll against your willpower, I think, or no, stamina, I think it was. Either way, he failed it for sure by rolling too high, so he's not getting a turn this turn because he's just been knocked out. Next turn he can get a turn if he passes a test when you want to activate him, otherwise you just miss a turn. So not looking good for the villains, clearly, because that's actually just taking us to the end of the battle round. So with the death of Martian Manhunter, it's now 12 playing 3 in the hero's favour, so it's not likely that they're ever going to catch up. If Cheetah and or Black Adam go down this turn, it's very unlikely because then they can just ignore Doomsday by running away from him. But we're going to play into one more battle round and see what happens. It will be the heroes going first, so Black Adam could get a turn. As long as they take out Cheetah, it's going to look pretty good for them. So the Man of Steel once again got a battle round started, because why wouldn't you? He's the strongest one here by a country mile. He spent 1 on Supercharge, so if he moves and ends a movement within 2 inches of an enemy, they have to do an agility test or take 2 damage. Cheetah failed her agility test, which is quite difficult for her to do because her agility is really high. But she took 2 damage from that. He then picked her up and threw her at Black Adam, which I just realised totally forgot to apply damage to Black Adam because he just takes the damage because he is knocked out. And that might be enough to kill him based on the size. No, she's size 2, so it would be size -1, so it would just be 1 damage, right? I'm going to have to double check that. I don't remember how it works if a person hits a person in this game. I'm getting confused with Crisis Protocol. Either way though, Superman would normally do 5 damage, up to 6, because Heroic Effort was remembered for the first time this match. However, Cheetah is very specifically resistant against the damage type of throw. It's not physical damage she's resistant to, it's blunt. Which is the very specific type of damage that is done if you get thrown, which I guess is to, again, show off just how agile she is. Like, she can kind of land on her feet and keep going, so she reduces it by 2, so normally it would be down to 3, Heroic Effort put it back up to 4, so in total, all said and done, she took 6 damage. Superman banked 4 power because there was nothing else to do. Oh sorry, no, he fired a heat ray at her from his eyes, and that was fully blocked. She did spend power to buff her energy defense and physical defense to try and avoid those attacks. So yeah, I'm going to quickly double check how much damage Black Adam is taking from having Cheetah chucked into him, because he can't dodge while he's unconscious, and then he can either try and wake up or Cheetah can do something. So yeah, it is equal to the size of the thing being chucked, so Black Adam automatically takes 2 because he can't do an agility roll while he's unconscious, putting him 2 away from death. Sorry, yeah, he's on 2 HP, so 2 damage would kill him. Cheetah pounced for 2 power to get into base to base with Superman, then did a overloaded Fangs attack, which is Mystic, and Superman is weak against Mystic, or magic in general, so it easily got through his defenses for 3 damage, but she couldn't do anything else. She banked 1 power. So Shazam flew in behind Cheetah, picked her up and threw her. He's slightly not as strong as this Superman, he's strength 5, so it's down to 4, and then she reduces that further by 2, so she did 2 damage from the throw, but the impact into Black Adam also did 2, which is enough to kill him for 1 victory point, and obviously he's not going to have a chance to wake up now. He then just did a basic Zeus Bolt, it got through for 3, putting Cheetah into her blue zone, and she failed her check, so she is also unconscious. But we are going to just go into the next round. It's going to be the last round, we're not going to go the full 6, but just to see if Doomsday could maybe make a difference, because Superman is below half health, so he might be able to sneak back some points. So just to formally cover the end of Battle Round 4, the only victory point gained was from Black Adam dying for 1 victory point, putting the heroes on 13. Doomsday is back, and there is a chance to activate first. There's a 50-50 chance, because there's 1 icon left for each of them in here. So, oh, and then Superman is now wounded to the point where he has lost 1 power as well. So let's see what's going to happen. Who's going to get the first turn? It's random, random, random. Oh, it is the villains. Okay, Doomsday's probably going to try and do something then. So another house went missing because Doomsday picked it up and threw it at Superman and Shazam because they were equidistant, so it was going to hit them both. So you have to split the damage, but you can split it any way you want. So one was put on Shazam, the rest was on Superman. They both passed their agility roll, so they took nothing from that. He then spent 2 to move 8 into base to base with Superman, and then did his Bone Breaker, which is the AoE 2 inches around him, so it caught Shazam as well. Superman dodged successfully for his agility roll, so he took half damage, but that still counts, so 1 victory point for Doomsday hurting Superman. And Shazam did not pass his agility roll, so he took the full 4 damage. So he did manage to gain 1 victory point. Of course, now Superman could hit him for a bunch, but we're going to see if Shazam can take care of Cheetah while she's unconscious on the floor, and that'll probably be game after that, but we'll see. So Shazam activated, did his Zeus Bolt on the unconscious Cheetah, got through for 3 damage. That is enough to take her out for 1 victory point. He then walked next to Doomsday, picked him up and threw him. Again, not quite as strong as Superman, and Doomsday is resistant to physical, but he took 2 damage from being chucked away. And now if Superman did activate, he's just going to like hide in the corner. So we are just going to call it there because there is no chance the villains are going to catch up at this point. So it was fun returning to the DC Universe miniature game for the first time in a long time, even longer if you don't include the universe, the DC Universe versus Marvel Universe ones we did on the channel a little while ago last year. Yeah, just pure DC was a long time ago. Definitely forgot rules, obviously, remembered heroic effort a couple of turns in, forgot resistances. In fact, resistances were something we always did wrong back in the old DC ones, where the interpretation was that resistance ups the defense it's related to, but it doesn't do that at all. It's once you take damage, it reduces that damage type by the set amount, unless the attack was irresistible. Which didn't matter in Doomsday's case, hitting Superman, because his attacks are irresistible. But it did matter early on. I think Black Adam took a bit too much damage the first time he was hit. That should have been reduced slightly. The good guy still stomped. This Superman is ridiculously powerful compared to all the other Supermen available for the DC Universe game. Like I think that was the same one we used last time, but we've had a match before where it was like just the Henry Cavill Superman, and he got his behind kicked by Doomsday and the dark side. Like this one in general is just super, super powerful, and it helps that they had more tokens in the bag to get first activation more often thanks to Shazam. That definitely helped out. And he burned all his once per game superpowers early for maximum effect. You've got to go hard on Doomsday to get rid of him quick, because he's persistent. And I don't think Superman ever ended his activation within distance to take damage from Corrosive Aura. He wasn't in any danger, like he had at least 10 HP left, all said and done. But yeah, it was just had a sudden hankering, and this game always used to be played when it was time to destroy a map, because then you just bring a bunch of superheroes that can pick up buildings and chuck them, and that is a quick way to clear a map, and also a fun way. So I hope you enjoyed, and if this was your first DC Universe miniature game battle report, there are more on the channel, and then again, ones against Marvel as well. It's a weird system, it's a fun system, not super competitive, definitely not super popular either, but just felt like a change. Hope you enjoyed watching, thank you for doing so, see you next time, ta for now.